Honey, your DNA was in the crime scene. That's why, like, there's a reason.
There's due process, right?
This is Eugene Gligor. For 23 years, he lived his life while Leslie Prier's family had no answers. A mother, Leslie Prier, killed inside her own home in 2001. There's no forced entry. The police find a man's DNA, but it matches no one. The case goes cold. He moves on. New routine, new city. The file waits.
Honey, your DNA was in the crime scene. That's why, like...
That calm sentence ends the hiding. Here's why. Detectives used family tree DNA and then took a water bottle he threw away at an airport. The old DNA from 2001 and the new DNA from that bottle matched, and the name was the ex-boyfriend of the victim's daughter. Think you know how we got here? Not yet. May 2001. Morning breaks wrong. Leslie punctual, steady, doesn't arrive for work, calls go unanswered, a welfare check opens the front door to a house that should have been ordinary. Upstairs, the bathroom tells the story first. There are blunt force injuries, there are marks along the neck, there are drag patterns and the frantic suggestion of a cleanup. Water turned against evidence as if a shower could rinse away a crime. There's something else too. No obvious forced entry. No smashed frame, no pry marks. Whoever crossed that threshold moved like they belonged. Her husband, friends called him Sandy, and a co-worker are the ones who find her. The first circle in homicide is always tight. Detectives sit Sandy down less than a month later, pressing hard toward confession because that's where most easy stories end.
I would love to be able to say you didn't do this. I really, honest to God, would. I'd like it to be some other here with a record of that kind of behavior. But that's not the way this is playing out. And that's not the way it's going to play out. We all know who's responsible. It's just a matter of getting to the truth of it all and having you explain to us. It's like a runaway freight train. Can't stop it. You can get all the advice in the world. You cannot stop it from happening.
Let me say this. I'll stay here all night with you guys and listen to you talk. But I repeat, I'm not saying anything unless my lawyer's here.
He invokes counsel and holds his ground. Meanwhile, the lab picks up the room's slack. Among the swabs and the labeled vials, a signal emerges. Male DNA consistent with a violent fight, with Leslie clawing for her life. That profile excludes Sandy. It doesn't name a suspect, but it pushes the spotlight away from the husband. The investigation widens. And then it cools. In 2001, DNA is a lighthouse in fog. It shines. It doesn't move. The profile goes into CODIS, the national index. No hit. Whoever did this isn't in the places detectives can reach. No arrest prints. No offender sample. The evidence does what evidence was made to do. Wait. Families can't wait. They learn to live around the hole. In 2002, Leslie's daughter Lauren walks into a station and asks what every loved one eventually asks. Has anything new surfaced?
Well, first of all, I guess you called me and you said that you wanted to come by and talk or so forth, so here we are.
Here we are.
Go ahead.
Well, basically it's me. I haven't really had much contact with you guys.
Uh-huh.
I was just wondering if what I should be doing with it, like where things stand.
Well, we followed, a number of leads, in reference to the revelation some time ago, I guess towards the end of last summer, where we found some DNA material that looked like it was from someone else. which, and as you know, we were focusing pretty strongly on your father at that point in time.
Right.
Given the facts and circumstances of the cases we knew them at that time. And of course, when that came out, then we began to spread that out, because obviously there was someone else there or within the residence. In the course of that investigation, we haven't found a thing that would tie it.
Mm-hmm.
We've done a number of interviews with people who do burglaries, things like that, home invasion things, because if your dad's not involved in this, it's got to be someone that would have a reason to be in the house or something like that. It was an uninvited guest or something. You know, there's a number of scenarios we can play with, but that's basically.
The map has a shape, unknown male, in the house, a fight, but no label. Tips float in. One sticks to the case's edge, a former boyfriend of Lauren's from the mid-1990s, Eugene Gligor. Back then, there's nothing concrete to glue him to the day. No witness, no confession, no database match. Just a name near the margins of a picture that refuses to sharpen. Years become decades. Detectives rotate. The profile remains, an address waiting for a letter. Then science grows teeth. 2 decades after Leslie's death, investigators try what the original team couldn't: forensic genetic genealogy. It doesn't find the suspect, it finds relatives, distant branches, sometimes overseas, and it lets detectives build a tree back toward a single name. The tree for the unknown male stretches across borders. Branch by branch, the paths keep bending toward that old peripheral name, Gligor. A family tree is a direction, not a verdict. To cross the last bridge, detectives need a direct match, the kind of certainty you can lay in front of a jury and leave there without a speech. That's when an increasingly common, lawful tactic enters the narrative. Wait for the suspect to discard DNA in public, something abandoned with no expectation of privacy. Washington Dulles International Airport. Surveillance watches a man with a water bottle. He drinks. He throws it away. Detectives recover the bottle from the trash and send it to the lab. Old profile meets new profile. Not close. Identical. The molecule that waited 23 years opens its mouth and says a name. After that, the system moves the way it always does. Paperwork, marshals, handcuffs. A ride that ends at a room with pale walls and microphones that never forget.
All right, we'll adjust it. We'll adjust it. Okay, hold on. They're not made for comfort, but we'll make it.
I get it.
Yeah, we'll make it. We'll ease it up on it. Yeah, no problem. Man. Ain't got nothing personal wrong with you.
Yeah.
Do you go to the office, or what do you do?
No, I work from home.
Okay. What were you doing out here? Just chilling out in the fresh air?
Just having some coffee. Yeah.
Okay. So you didn't know anything about this warrant? Okay. Our boss will tell you everything about it. It's nothing big.
I'm going to take him, hold his arm. I'm going to twist his arm straight.
He's 45 now, a life built in Washington, D.C. A man who once dated the victim's daughter years before the murder. He sits. 2 detectives join him. The room starts softly, it always does. Introductions, the long walk back through biography, schools, addresses, parents, the low-stakes facts that make people settle into chairs.
Do you recall back in 2001, Leslie Preer?
Yes, that she was murdered, yeah.
Yes. Okay. So that's the case that we are investigating. You went to BCC with her daughter at the time?
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay. And what was your relationship with Lauren, the daughter?
We had dated.
Okay. And when did you guys date? Do you remember years?
Exact dates, I'm not entirely sure.
Were you in high school or was it after high school?
Yeah, it was high school.
When you guys were dating, how close were you with the family? Like, did you spend a lot of time at their house, or did you know them real well?
I knew the family. I, definitely spent time. She spent time at my house. I've spent time at her house. Yeah, for sure.
So how were you close with her parents?
I mean, I wouldn't say close with them. I don't know how much. I don't know if close would be the right word.
Crime rooms have a moment when gravity wins. Here it happens in the quiet. No slam, no yell. Just a sentence that weighs more than the rest of the tape combined. Detectives now decide to take a more direct approach with him.
So from the crime scene, we have DNA from the person who was there when Leslie died. So there's Leslie's blood all over the place, obviously, but then there's also another DNA profile that was picked up from the crime scene. And we had put that into CODIS, our database from the National CODIS DNA Index System, and it has never hit. So whoever was there, whoever's DNA was also on the scene, has never been arrested. And that's why we were going through doing all these elimination DNA samples to find out, you know, okay, well, this person couldn't have done it because we matched their DNA to it. So we realized that they never talked to you, never did anything, and we wanted to find out more about you. And if there was any kind of situation where you could have been at the house at that time.
I'm a little confused. So to find out more and talk to me, why not just call me and ask me to come in and talk to me versus have marshals come and arrest me and bring me in? I'm just confused as to why that's the case.
Well, because we needed to talk to you in a controlled environment, and because there's a little bit more to it than what we've told you so far.
Could you tell me?
Well, we're getting there. I'm trying to give you an opportunity to be a little bit forthcoming before we...
I mean, I feel a little bit trapped here, like...
Well, you're under arrest, so you should feel trapped.
Right, and so I think, you know, I mean, probably asking for a lawyer is my best course of action at this point.
Okay.
Instead of doing any more discussing or talking about it, it just doesn't seem, I don't understand, so I'd like to have somebody...
Well, that's why we're trying to talk to you about it.
I know,
but we can't...
and there's two of you and one of me, so sure. I feel a little outnumbered, and I probably would need some type of representation if I am under arrest, as you said, which I am.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I think that having a lawyer would be the best.
After hours of calm questioning, Eugene Gligor finally reaches his breaking point. Pressed by detectives, he leans back in his chair, exhales, and utters the words every investigator expects at this stage: "I want a lawyer." But the detectives aren't done yet. They've been saving their trump card, the one piece of evidence that will shatter his composure. When they reveal it, everything changes.
It's totally fine, and we don't have to ask you any more questions, but we are going to just tell you some stuff. Okay? So from the crime scene, the DNA that was taken, we actually have a sample of your DNA, and it was compared to the crime scene DNA, and it matched. So we know that you were there at the time when Leslie died.
But I never gave a sample of DNA.
That's correct. We obtained a sample from a discarded water bottle that you drank out of. So you were followed, and we collected it after you discarded it into the trash, and it was swabbed and it was compared. So your DNA matches the crime scene DNA.
I don't know what to say. I'm not...
The end of a route that began with fingernail scrapings in 2001 wound through a family tree 2 decades later and stopped at an airport trash can with a plastic bottle. Every step on that route is covered in paperwork and patience. None of it depends on the suspect's mood. He tries to plant an explanation anyway. The classic refuge appears: intoxication, memory gaps, the blur of a worse self in a worse time, but molecules don't rearrange to match a story. The language narrows until there isn't room to misunderstand.
I have no recollection. I have no memory. I have no... I don't know what to say.
Okay, well, that's why we wanted to talk to you, to find out if there's any other explanation. But we can't ask you any more questions if you want a lawyer present.
Yeah, I think I should have a lawyer present. I don't know what to do or say. It doesn't make sense to me, so I don't know. I don't know what to do.
Do you have a lawyer that you...
No.
Okay.
I don't have to call. I don't know. I don't know. I probably would call my girlfriend and ask her to help us. I don't know.
You know, we wanted to try to see if there was another angle or another side to this story, and
I mean,
you know, we know
why would
that
my DNA be there?
That's what we're trying to figure out.
So I don't know. I don't know. You know, I mean, I was in the house, but it was years before.
Correct.
You know, when I dated her.
Correct.
I don't know. I wish I could tell you. I don't know. I don't understand. This is all very bewildering, very strange.
He wants the questions to stop, and yet he keeps talking. That on-again, off-again invocation is exactly the kind of thing lawyers will later circle in red. It may affect admissibility. It doesn't alter biology. Meanwhile, the family's timeline has its own gravity. Back in 2002, Lauren was already absorbing the knife edge of hope and hurt in one sentence. Someone else's DNA was in her mother's house, and there was no match to anyone. 23 years later, the match arrives, and the room captures what it looks like when inevitability sits down. He says he didn't do it. He says he doesn't remember. He says his earlier life had issues. The lane narrows.
Is there more that you're gonna tell me? Is there more?
I mean, we've told you plenty. We can't continue to ask you questions.
If you want to keep talking, we can. But if you want to stop, you have to let us know for sure.
Yeah.
We can tell you more about, you know, what we think happened.
I don't. I mean, what you think happened, I don't know. I can't verify. I don't know. I don't recall. I don't have any memory. I didn't do anything that you're talking about, so I don't know. And I don't feel like I can...
In the half seconds between questions, you can watch a human being realize that the only person left to argue with is a lab report, and lab reports do not argue. Denying gravity never moves the floor, it just makes the fall take longer. Outside that room, away from microphones and angled chairs, there's a quieter story with harder edges. A mother lost, a daughter who kept asking, a husband who was once pressed, then cleared by DNA, and who wouldn't live to see the ending. This is what long cases do to families. They rearrange calendars around absence until the day the phone finally rings. What happens next leaves the room and enters the courthouse. Lawyers will argue about the tape, about when a right was invoked and how questions should have stopped. Judges will make decisions. The science will sit where it always sat, in the middle, not moving. The camera doesn't decide cases, it shows them. What decides a case is the paper that follows, the warrant that puts a name on a line, the chain of custody form that rides shotgun with a swab, the report that turns a fragment of skin into a sentence. But before the paper moves, the room finishes what it started. 2 detectives, 1 suspect, and the quiet weight of a result no one in that chair can out-talk.
What we're trying to figure out is how your blood was at the scene that day.
If there's an alternate explanation, that's why we wanted to talk to you today, okay? So I feel like you just need to take a breath for a second, okay? That's what we're trying to figure out. Why is your blood there?
Could it have been, you know, an interrupted burglary? Did something happen where you didn't expect anybody to be home?
I have no idea. I don't remember. I don't recall.
There are moments when you can feel the entire life of a case settling into place. You don't need a confession for that. You need consistency. You need the kind of alignment that turns a theory into a structure. a crime scene with no forced entry, injuries consistent with a close, violent struggle, blood that doesn't belong, fingernail scrapings that remember a fight, a database that went silent for 2 decades, and a water bottle that finally spoke. The interview exists to confront a person with that structure, to see what happens when the walls don't move. The community only saw fragments for years. A mother gone, a husband pressed, then excluded, a daughter who kept showing up to ask the same question differently because the answer wouldn't come. They did not see the evidence technician who initialed a strip of tape and then went home, or the detective who took a fresh look at a stale lead and wrote Gligor on a pad, because an old tip from a neighbor finally mattered again when science grew ambitious enough to chase it. Back to the facts the courtroom will let in. The state does not need a speech if it has a chain. Scene with patterns of close-quarters violence. Defense strategies in a case like this practically write themselves. Undermine the collection, question the chain, suggest transfer, lean on time, contrast human frailty against machine certainty, ask jurors to stand in the doubt that always surrounds the edges of old evidence. The prosecution's burden is higher than narration. It must translate the room's inevitability into elements, act, intent, causation, each with proof that survives cross-examination. And if the interrogation becomes a legal battlefield, when did he invoke counsel? Did questions continue? Which parts are admissible? The state must be able to say, even without the dialogue, the biology remains. That is why the sentence hits so hard when it lands early in the tape. Outside the tape, there are things that hurt to say but still matter. That Sandy pressed early, then cleared by the same technology the case depended on, died in 2017, years before the lab finally handed his family an ending. After more than 2 decades, justice finally caught up to Eugene Gligor. In 2025, he stood before a Montgomery County judge and pleaded guilty to the 2001 murder of Leslie Prieur. He was sentenced to 22 years in prison, followed by 5 years of supervised probation. Gligor claimed he didn't remember the killing, saying he'd blacked out, but expressed remorse and accepted responsibility. For Leslie's family, it wasn't closure, but it was justice, long overdue. Eugene Gligor ran from the law for 23 years, but in the end, time ran faster. You've been watching Grimvault, where the past is never buried and every secret eventually surfaces. If you found this story compelling, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because we have more cold cases, confessions, and courtroom reckonings coming your way.